Hi, and welcome to NicheCraft. My name is Cassie, and I'm your host. So today we are going to be looking through this book together, and I'm going to be giving you a little bit of a review of this book. Now, we're obviously not going to look at every single page, but I did want to show you a little bit about what you get when you purchase the Granny Square book. This is a second edition. It says Timeless Techniques and Fresh Ideas for Crocheting Square by Square. It's by Margaret Hubert. And it says now with 100 motifs and 25 all new projects. I thought that for $13.99 this was a really good purchase to make, and so I went ahead and got a copy of this book with my last Amazon purchase. And I just wanted to show you guys a little bit about what's in here. Now, all of these little squares over here, these are all in the book, okay? But what we have is it starts with some crochet basics like hooks and other notions like stitch markers and that kind of stuff, some general techniques, some granny square techniques, and details and finishing. Something that I thought was really cool about this beginning part is that it does show you how to make the very, very basic stitches. It shows you how to make a single crochet and a double crochet and a couple of other basic stitches that'll help you make these particular squares. And then from there, we have the 100 granny square patterns that are included in this book. And then we have the designing section, which is, it's maybe a little, it's about 60 pages of designing, and it shows you just different ideas for what you can make with these granny squares. So what I did was I marked some of the granny squares that I thought were the best. And again, here's the, as you can see, here's the single crochet right here, and the half double crochet and the double crochet. And here's a stitch that I have not done on the channel yet, but a triple crochet and a double triple crochet. But what I did was I went ahead and marked the squares that really impressed me the most so that we could look at those. And so the very first stitch that I marked was this cone flower. And I liked this one because I already know how to make this flower. It's a very easy flower pattern, and I was actually thinking about making a tutorial on how to make these flowers and then how to join them together to make a really, really nice lace weight like daisy shawl. It is so pretty. And then I thought that it was neat that this also incorporated the same cone flower that I already knew how to make into a granny square. So it took that circle and turned it into a square. And so we've got these kind of leaf looking motifs. And if you see, you've got each one of the rounds listed for you in regular stitches. And they've got this really great page where you have all of the abbreviations. So you're able to, if you even want to, you can scan this and print it out. So that you know what every single one of these abbreviations means. And then it also shows the symbols for the diagram right here, because some people have a much easier time looking at the diagram. So this is really cool. We've got the diagram and the written out pattern as well. And it does say the skill level on each pattern. And I do want to, I'm going to actually close the book while we talk about this because I don't want to be distracted. There are, I believe, 4 different skill levels, maybe 5, but I know the first one is beginner, and that is basically just the single and the double crochet stitch. And those are basically all you're really going to need for those beginner projects. Maybe a little bit of chaining and a little bit of maybe a front post double crochet every so often or something like that. But that's basically a beginner stitch, and then or a beginner pattern. And then the easy patterns are the ones that are just a little bit of a step up from that. It's like you've got all the beginner stuff down, you know how to crochet, and then this just throws in an extra thing. They're usually just patterns where there's a certain stitch and you just repeat it over and over and over again, okay? And then as you go up, there is the intermediate patterns, and those are just a little bit more advanced than the easy patterns, in that typically there's a little bit of counting involved, maybe when you're just starting out, with like the first couple of rows might need counting, and then after that it's kind of like you kind of just see the pattern and you do it without having to be real mindful of it. And then the advanced and anything higher than advanced are the ones where you've got to really, they might feel a little tedious, but they're also those kinds of patterns that when you apply yourself, it really pays off in these like really amazing looking squares. I'm actually surprised that this is an intermediate, because I can just look at this and see how it's made, and I personally would have said that this would have been an easy. So, but yeah, so I like the coneflower one, especially since I already know how to make the coneflower. And I thought that that was an interesting way of creating a granny square. And then earlier in the book, number 19 is a variation on this square, which is called the Adrian square. This is a beginner skill level. Okay, so it's not going to take a whole lot to make this. In fact, if I look at this, it looks like you're using double crochet, half double crochet, and chains. And that's all you need in order to make this. It looks like there's single crochets around the end, around that border. But I really liked this. It's nice and simple. I like how it has this kind of geometric type thing going on here, where it's like the flower is kind of like, if you see it as a cross like that, the flower's like turned, and then the square is, and I don't know, it just creates this really nice geometric effect. And I also like the circle that turns into the square motif. So there's that one. Another one, I really love these kind of swirl patterns. I've never made a granny square with swirls like that, and this does say it's an experienced one, so there is a level after intermediate that's called experience apparently, but again, it doesn't really look like it's that difficult of a stitch. If I'm looking at this, it doesn't look like it's that hard. Of course I'd have to try it out, but anyway, I thought that that was a really beautiful one, and one that you could do in either just one color, or you could do it in multiple colors. As far as like, you could make all your squares the same color and it would still look good. And then we have these squares that are all flower garden square variations. And I just thought that it was kind of cool that we have these squares where we have the same kind of motif around the outside of them, and then the inside are these flowers. And I think there's 12 of them, okay? So if we kind of flip through these pages real quick, we'll see here's the first one, and then here's the second one right here, and you'll see that they all kind of have this same motif around the outside, but the flowers in the middle are different in each one. And I thought that these were really pretty. Some of them I like better than others. Like, I don't like this one as much, but I really like this one. I really like yellow, so that's probably why I like it. Some people might look at that and be like, what are you doing making a weed granny square blanket? And here's another one. I think that that's really pretty too. And sometimes I have to say, this is the 7th one, I'll see these and I think that maybe I only like it because of the colors that they're showing the squares in, which totally could be true. I don't know. This flower garden square, the 9th one, I don't see it as being as pretty as the others, but this one, oh my gosh, I love this sunflower one. I think that that is so pretty. And one thing I think of when I'm making granny squares is like, I can make something really super lacy, but then when I put it together, is that going to make a good blanket? You know, so I have to kind of figure out which granny square to use to make whatever it is that I want to make. So if I was to make something out of this, for example, this would make a pretty good blanket. You know, something a little bit more lacy, you know, it still would be nice and everything. But I don't know if it would make so much of a good blanket. And this is I believe that this is the last one here, and it reminds me of a passion flower. Now, I don't like the way passion flowers look, but there's another one. I think that this is a really interesting stitch pattern here. It looks like it's using some kind of like eyelash stitch, and don't worry if you don't know what that is. We are going to be able to go over that later on the channel. So that said, let's go ahead and flip past to this next one that I really like, and it's called the nautical wheel. I suppose it's supposed to look like the wheel on a ship that the captain uses. I really like this pattern. It just feels really pretty. I like the I like that it's a pattern that looks like a flower, but it's not a flower. I guess that's what I mean, because it seems like in granny squares flowers are really overdone. And so I like the concept of that. I could see how this would be really cool if you made like a Ferris wheel type motif as well. And so that's something that reminded me of. The next one that I marked down was this quartet one. I thought this was so cool because it's like the whole granny square is a combination of 4 smaller granny squares. And I'm not certain if this is one of those where you make these 4 granny squares and then you somehow like seam them together and then you make the bigger granny square around it. I don't know if it's one of those or if this is a continuous one, but whatever it is, I really like this. I would like to see more granny squares done like this, and I think that if I was to learn how to do this particular granny square, I could incorporate other granny square patterns and substitute those where these 4 are, and I think that would be really cool. All right, so the next one is this. There is something about this flower one that I really like, and I think it goes back to that whole geometry thing that I was talking about earlier, because we have this flower that's you know, you've got the kind of diamond or this kind of hourglass looking thing here, and then you've got the square, but it's not so much that it's just like a square and then it's turned a little bit and then it's turned in, you know, and it's not like really abrupt. So I just really like the way that pans out there, and it looks simple too, because some of these granny squares are really they just look really advanced, and this one just looks like something that once you get the hang of it, once you make one, then you can make a whole bunch of other ones really fast. Of course, I'm not showing all of these. Just want to make sure that, okay. So here's a really fun one. I don't necessarily typically like this embroidery on finished works. For some reason, I just don't like it. I know a lot of people do. I would try embroidery for this particular pattern. I think that this is gorgeous. It would be hard for me to pick the colors though, because I wouldn't want all of the butterflies to be the same color. And I think instead of putting them against a green background, I would probably put them against a blue background, so they're like kind of like they're flying in the sky or something like that. And I think it would be really pretty to make different colored butterflies, but with the background being the exact same in each one. And I think that could make a really beautiful blanket. Especially for the springtime or even in the summer. And I just really liked how it's also a little asymmetrical, and I kind of like don't mind that, you know. Granny squares are supposed to be symmetrical. That's the way that I usually conceive of them, but the asymmetry in this is actually something that is a design positive for me. So I think that that's kind of interesting. And of course, you know, all of them also have these diagrams as well if you're more comfortable looking at diagrams. But yeah, I really like this one. I really think this is cool. So the next one that I marked, and here's, okay, so maybe this one isn't all that impressive to you, but to me, when I looked at this, one of the first things I thought was, oh, I wonder if I could make like granny square snowflakes. And it looked like if I practiced this particular granny square, I could design this as if it's a snowflake and make a snowflake's granny square winter blanket, because it seems like there's a lot of granny squares that are focused on flowers and spring and all of that kind of great stuff. And I mean, they're beautiful. I mean, is a beautiful thing to make granny squares out. But when I look at winter blankets, the granny squares typically are focused on specific holidays like Christmas and all of that. And sometimes I just want to make a winter blanket that doesn't have to do with Christmas, or I might want to make a fall blanket that doesn't have to do with Thanksgiving. Of course, I live in the United States, so those holidays are very commercialized for me. And so it would be really cool if I was able to design a bunch of snowflake motifs and make a granny square blanket out of that. And definitely if I do that, which I probably will, because this was really highly motivating for me when I saw this, I will definitely share that with the channel while I make that one. Okay, so let's go ahead and turn to the next one. This is one of those that I think it might have just been the colors. This really reminds me of the 70s. I wasn't around in the 70s. I was born in 1980, but it reminds me of the Tupperware colors of the Tupperware my parents had. They were like, there was like a brown one, and then there was one that was like this green and this orange, and I remember there was a yellow one as well. But anyway, so it might be the colors talking, but I just think that this is a really cool looking flower. I like that it's more wide, and I like that this is really more of a basic granny stitch here at the end. So it's like you don't really have to learn a whole lot in order to make this particular granny square. All you have to do is learn how to make that flower and then incorporate it into a regular basic granny square. So to me, even though this is marked as intermediate, it seems like this would be a really easy one to learn pretty quick. It would be easy to get down. Okay, so oh yeah, this is another one. I think that I had Tupperware on my mind, and then I just couldn't stop thinking about it, because here's another one. But what I like about this is the same kind of thing here with the flower being a little bit bigger. But I like this like mesh work here in the middle. I'm used to seeing mesh in squares and rectangles, but I'm not used to seeing it in the round. So I really like that mesh work right there. Maybe I just haven't done enough mesh crochet, but I thought that that was really pretty. And there's that brown that I was talking about with the Tupperware, and there's the orange again, and the yellow. It was a little bit more of a mustard yellow than this bright yellow, but still, this is beautiful. I mean, the colors go together so well, and I just really like this one. So alrighty, so I think, yeah, so those are all the things that I went ahead and put a bookmark in, but I thought that it would be cool to just flip through these different ideas for patterns. So we have a headband made out of a granny squares. I think that that's kind of cool. I don't think I've ever seen a headband. I thought that this was nice. Making a granny square for the ribbon on the brim of a hat, sun hat. I think that that's really pretty. And we have this dress, or this nice. Now this isn't crocheted. This is just a regular shirt, but then they're able to sew these granny squares around the sleeves to make these kind of bell sleeves, and I like that a lot. I think that that's really neat. And of course we have the granny square coasters. What's important about these coasters though is that you've got to make sure that they're not made of anything that will felt, because that water might get on them. And then you also have to make sure that they're pretty flat. Sorry, I didn't even realize I wasn't looking at the camera. But yeah, you've got to make sure that they're lying flat. And that can sometimes be difficult with crochet, because crochet, even when it's a flat stitch, sometimes there is too much texture. Okay, so here's a cowl, or a loop scarf is what they're calling it. These are just different ways to graph out patterns. If you don't have graph paper and you're interested in designing, I would highly recommend getting graph paper. It's great for all sorts of design. I thought that this was a cool idea, but I mean, this is definitely not my style, but I thought this was a cool idea in making granny squares that are, we've got this solid granny square stitch, and then it's quilted. So they add some batting in between the stitches, and then they're able to create this vest here. I'm sure that's very warm. But again, I've never been the kind of person to wear like a quilted vest anyway. But I think that that's kind of cool. And again, they show you how to map it out here. I thought that this was just so beautiful. And this is a really great example of how these more lacy ones can be used for something other than a blanket. So this is a really lacy granny square here. And you've got this made into a shawl, which is, I mean, it's beautiful. It goes really well with a solid colored dress, or I mean, really with jeans and a t-shirt. I mean, this can really dress up any outfit, and I really like it. And it's really, all it is just this V shape right here. That's all it is. That's how you sew them together. And then this little squiggly line right here is this lace that they put on. So I thought that that was kind of interesting too. This, I wouldn't do this to my daughter, but maybe some people would like to. Maybe like, okay, maybe like a toddler, but not my 15-year-old would be very angry at me if I made this. I think she'd be angry, but that's, you know, it's a thing. it's solid in the back, so I think that's kind of interesting. Not my style. I thought that this was so pretty, and I thought, well, what if you just took that mesh and went further down and then used these at the very bottom, you know, and then use this at the very end right here. And I love how these look like suns. This was one of them that I did not show you guys, but I couldn't show you all of them. I'm just doing this book review. So I thought that this was a really cool idea. It is a swim cover up, obviously, but I could see myself taking this idea and making maybe a dress out of it, or a sundress out of it, or something like that, because I really like that. I think that's pretty. And again, they give you a lot of information about how to design it. I thought this was really pretty. Not my style now, but it would have been when I was in high school. Love the colors. This might be a case where the colors is what's impressing me more than the actual granny squares. But I really like this one. I think that's cool. I think that this tie here would probably bother me personally. I think I'd rather have a button. But this kind of outfit does not flatter my body shape. You know, when I was a teenager, it would have flattered me, but not now. But I'll probably show this to my daughter and ask her if she would like for me to try to make a little sweater like this for her, because I could see that being kind of cool. I could also see it being very lame too. There's a very fine line there. And one thing that I take issue with, though, is I don't really understand why there's this extra square here. Maybe that's like a statement that I don't know about. I don't know. But I guess if I do make it, I'll see. Now, this is more my style. I love this. This is obviously something that you would wear over... well, I mean, I would hope that you would want to wear this over like a tank top, but I just love this spring color. And I just love the way that this looks. I think it's great. We've got granny squares going down the front. Then we have the mesh on either side. Then we have granny squares on the sides. Granny squares made into the cap sleeves. And then we have this mesh here. And then this border right here looks like it's part of that granny square motif. So I really, really like this one. I think this is really brilliant. And I mean, I would want to make something like this. I don't think I have time to make something like this right now, but this is definitely something that I would be interested in making eventually. Maybe not with this particular granny square, but with one of them. Definitely. I think that would be great. And again, you know, I have cats. If you hear my cat meowing in the background, she's the cranky one, the one that's meowing right now. She kind of sounds angry when she meows. So I really like this design. Not because I would use it, I mean, but because I'm used to seeing granny square purses or bags done in a way that we're going to see in just a few pages. But I like the idea of taking this, and instead of making this into like a bag, because I usually see these as bags, like totes, turning it into this kind of this really cool, I don't know what to call this kind of bag. I know that there's a word for it. It's not a hobo bag, but this like kind of gathered bag here. I just love that. I think that that is so cool. It says that it's made with cotton too, which would be a good material to make this out of, because then it would be more durable. And it looks like there's a lining inside here too, based on that. But that's a really cool idea, I think. Now, I've seen granny square scarves. I personally don't like them for myself, but I've seen them, and there's nothing wrong with the scarf. It looks pretty. It's just not my thing. I also get a little, I think my brain kind of doesn't want to look when I see like these really tiny ones mixed up with the bigger ones and everything. It's weird because I've seen other people make them, like blankets and stuff like that, with incorporating both small and large granny squares, and it's like quilting, you know, it's like, it'll be really beautiful. But for me, it's just too much. I don't know, my brain can't handle it. That's the best way I can say. It's like trying to do long division for me. When I look at this, there's something that my brain's just like trying to shut down. Now, this is the bag that I was talking about, that is what I'm used to seeing when I think of a granny square bag. I'm used to seeing like granny squares here, and then like a little bottom here that's done in a really tight stitch, and then, you know, the regular strap done like that, and then the granny squares just being, you know, maybe 2 layers of granny squares going around. That's what I'm used to seeing. So when I saw this, I guess, clutch, or this medium-sized bag, I thought that was really cool. It was different, something that I hadn't seen before, so I liked that. I appreciate that difference in design. This is not my style at all. Again, and it's the same girl that had to wear that other thing too. I feel sorry for her, but maybe she likes it. I mean, you know, see, she seems happy at least. But yeah, this is a little bit too, there's a word for it, but I can't figure out what it is. I do like that it has a hood though, here, so you can see it does have a hood in it. But this, I don't know, it's featuring the granny square that has the heart in the middle. But for some reason, these heart shapes are not showing through as defined as I would like, personally. I think I would have made this in maybe like different color pinks or something like that. I don't know. There's a lot of things that I would do differently in this. However, it is a good design. I mean, I recognize that. It's just not my style at all. And it always gives very, very good instructions. Now, this is really cute. And I think it's funny because this little granny square bucket hat and this little shirt and everything, it's like, I want that in an adult size, because this is a toddler sweater set. It's like, well, I want this one. Why can't I be a toddler? But I really like this. In fact, I could see myself actually trying to make this in an adult size. I wonder if they even allow you to do that. I mean, I wonder if they give you the way... Yeah, they do. They give you enough to where you can like take your own measurements and adjust it that way. I mean, it doesn't straight out say that, but on this page, it shows you the pattern as far as like how you assemble it. And you can just, it says how many inches or centimeters each piece of this is. So if you took your own measurements, you can make the pieces to your measurements and then use the amount of granny squares that you would need to in order to achieve the result that you would want for your size. So that's something cool. And of course, making the hat would take a little bit of math, but that wouldn't hurt my brain. Another really, really cool one. This is a rectangle granny square, and I think that's really important to know how to do a rectangle granny square, because for me, one of the first, like when I first learned how to do a granny square, I thought it was so cool, it was so easy and all of that. And I wanted to make just a really huge continuous project of a granny square blanket, but I didn't want it to be square. I wanted it to be a rectangle. So I learned how to do a rectangle. And so I ended up with this enormous blanket. My daughter is constantly cold, so she has like 3 or 4 of my crochet blankets all piled up on her bed. I don't know if she actually uses them all, but yeah, and that's where this one is. But I like this. I like the concept of this. Not certain if it's for me, but that's okay because this is a baby sweater set. But of course, if I had to have this, I would just do some math and design it myself here. And then here's just, you know, I thought it was nice that they included a few blankets too, you know, just as examples. Of course, something that's really cool about granny squares is that you can just kind of make your own blanket. Of course, you would want to use cotton for your, if you wanted to make a tablecloth or a table runner, but this is really pretty too. I like that idea. I personally wouldn't have thought of doing that. I might think of making like a granny square picnic blanket, something like that, but not for a table. But I really like the way that that looks. And here's another blanket here, and another one. This is something that gets me about granny squares. Sometimes there's just too much going on, and when that happens, when there's too much going on, there's a fine line between something that looks really refined and good and then just something that to me looks really chaotic. And I can't explain what that is, what that line is, but this has crossed it. So, you know, and if you like it, great, that's awesome. And I also like this kind of different way of putting them together so that there's like a chevron thing going on here. I think like in actuality, like I like the idea of it, but I wouldn't like it in actuality, because in actuality, I prefer for my blankets to have a very clear, straight edge where I'm pulling it up to my neck, you know. It's something that I've always felt about crochet blankets, because my grandmother made me a whole bunch of chevron blankets, and I never liked how they were it was like a zigzag up near my face, and I didn't like that. So, you know, just something to think about. Oh, so here's an adult bucket hat here. So that's pretty. I don't remember seeing this the last time I looked through there. Oh, and this. I thought that this was cool too. I love this because not only is it, I mean, it's good for also, these shaped pillows are good for everything, at least I think. And so it shows you how to make it, and it's really very, very simple. All you do is you make this rectangle. So you basically make a granny square blanket, and then you just put it in a roll. And for any of you guys that end up having some old pillows, like I have some My Pillows that I loved at the time, but now I kind of want to upcycle them. You can use stuffing from pillows to put into your work, as long as the stuffing you can wash it. So that actually might be something that I do, because I was wanting to make a lumber pillow recently. I might actually do something similar to this. I don't think I'm going to make a granny square one, but something similar to that, and stuff it with the My Pillow fluff. So I hope you enjoyed looking at this granny square book with me. I know it was, you know, a little different, but there is a good reason I have for looking at this with you guys, and that is that I'm going to start adding some granny square tutorials. So look forward for that. You'll see it very soon. So thanks for watching till the end of the video. I really appreciate it. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. I've got tons of projects coming up, and I have lots of tutorials. I do a mystery box unboxing every Monday. I have a giveaway going on right now, so you probably want to get in on that. The retail value of that is $125 to $150. It's open to the US and Canada, so go ahead and check that out and make sure you enter. And I will see you soon with your first granny square tutorial. All right.